He had always laughed at the idea of aliens. Movies, books, and TV shows were fun, but real life was completely different. Bills needed paying, work needed doing, and the world rarely offered anything magical. Still, one late night, feeling bored, he joined an online group that promised connections with people from all over. Some profiles seemed normal, some strange, and some almost too perfect. Then he saw her. She was different from anyone else. Her words were precise, elegant, almost regal. She spoke about responsibility, her world, and her people. At first, he assumed she was just role-playing. It was fun, so he played along, joking, laughing at the unusual names and titles. Conversations stretched late into the night, full of playful challenges and questions about life in other worlds. One night, while trying to make a joke, he typed something he did not think too deeply about. He said, "Fine, if your world works this way, I guess I'm proposing to you." He hit send and waited, expecting laughter or a funny meme in response. The reply was immediate. It was simple, short, and strange. "Your proposal is accepted. The union is now binding." He laughed at first, thinking it was a continuation of the game. But the tone felt different. The words had weight, like someone serious had written them. He sent a follow-up, trying to clarify, joking again, but the response remained calm and formal. She explained that in her culture, words carried importance. Even jokes could become commitments. He blinked at the screen, unsure whether to be amused or terrified. The night went on, and sleep refused him. His mind replayed the messages over and over. He tried to convince himself it was just a role play, a fun story on the internet. But something in her tone, the way she spoke about rules, duty, and honor, made it impossible to dismiss. Every word seemed real, serious, and intentional. By morning, he was wide awake, his imagination running wild. What if it was true? What if this wasn't a game? He kept checking his devices, expecting a simple prank to reveal itself. But nothing came. The messages stayed. She stayed. It was a joke that had grown too big, too real, and he had no idea how to fix it. Something that began as a laugh now felt like a door opening to something entirely unknown. He had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. The morning after his accidental proposal, he tried to return to normal life, but nothing felt normal. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from her. They were calm, polite, but unmistakably serious. She now addressed him as consort and spoke about customs he had never heard of. Every message made him feel smaller, like a child trying to understand an adult world. He tried to convince himself it was just a game, a role play he could leave at any time. But things began to feel strange. Small, almost unnoticeable changes appeared around him. His laptop flickered on its own, showing symbols he could not understand. His smart devices started behaving oddly, lights turning on and off, strange vibrations from his phone. He shook his head, telling himself it was just a technical glitch, yet a growing unease gnawed at him. She continued sending messages, explaining that in her culture, spoken intentions carried real weight. What he had said in jest was now binding. His heart pounded as he read each word. He typed back furiously, trying to explain that it was a joke. She responded with patience, but her tone made it clear she expected him to understand the seriousness. Fear slowly replaced his initial amusement. The online group that had seemed harmless was now a doorway into something he couldn't control. He looked out the window and for a moment felt the world had shifted. The sky looked the same, yet heavier somehow, as if waiting. Hours passed, and he tried to distract himself with work, but every ping of his phone made him jump. Every message reminded him that a joke had turned real. He was trapped in a situation that felt like a dream but heavier, more urgent. By evening, he could no longer ignore it. He realized he had stumbled into something far beyond his understanding. This was not a prank, not a game. She had accepted him in ways he did not yet fully comprehend, and the consequences were beginning to show. For the first time, he considered that he might actually meet her. The thought was terrifying. How could someone from another world appear in his reality? And yet, part of him felt a strange curiosity, a pull he could not resist. He knew that once he crossed that line, life would never be the same again. 3 nights later, the world around him began to change in ways he could not ignore. The city lights flickered strangely, and a low hum filled the air, soft at first, then growing louder. His phone vibrated nonstop with a single message, "I have arrived to complete the bond." His stomach tightened. He had imagined meeting her, but he never truly believed it could happen. Now, the words on his screen felt real, urgent, and commanding. He looked out the window and saw a faint glow hovering above the street. It was not the moon, not an aircraft, but something else entirely. He rubbed his eyes, convinced it was a trick of fatigue. When he opened them again, the light remained. The hum became a presence, almost like a heartbeat in the air around him. The sensation made him step back, unsure if he should leave his apartment or stay. His mind raced, thinking of all the stories of encounters, all the sci-fi films he had watched. None of them had prepared him for this. Then she appeared. Not as a monster or alien creature, not in a blinding beam of light, but as a figure stepping through a subtle shimmer, like a ripple in reality itself. Her presence was calm, composed, and undeniably powerful. He could see her face, her eyes filled with intelligence and curiosity. And he felt a shiver run down his spine. He wanted to speak, to explain that it had all been a joke, a mistake, but his voice caught in his throat. She raised a hand gently, and the hum seemed to soften, as if she controlled it. She spoke, her words echoing softly, not through sound, but through understanding. She told him that she had come not to harm, but to honor the words he had spoken. The accidental proposal had weighed in her world, and she had no choice but to arrive. He felt fear, awe, and disbelief all at once. The reality he had dismissed as fantasy was standing in his living room. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to deny the impossible. Yet there was a pull, a strange fascination that made him stay rooted, unable to look away. This was real. She was real. And now, whatever happened next, his life would never be the same. The joke had ended, and the adventure had begun. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. She stood in front of him, calm and elegant, yet commanding in a way that made him shrink back slightly. His mind raced, trying to form words to explain that the proposal had been a joke, that he had no idea this would happen. But when he opened his mouth, the words faltered. She listened patiently. There was no rush, no anger, only understanding in her gaze. Then, softly but firmly, she spoke, explaining her perspective. In her culture, spoken intention carried great power. Even jokes could become real commitments if the speaker truly meant the words, even unconsciously. She said she had known from the start that he might have been joking, but she also sensed a unique honesty in him, something rare and intriguing. He was torn. Fear battled curiosity. How could this be real? How could someone from a completely different world understand him so clearly, yet expect him to honor words he had never meant to utter? His heart pounded, and he struggled to steady his breathing. Then she smiled, almost warm expression that seemed to soften the air around him. She admitted that her acceptance was not only a matter of duty, but also of interest. Humans fascinated her, especially one who had spoken boldly enough to propose without knowing the consequences. She had accepted because she was curious, because the world she came from valued courage and honesty even in mistakes. He felt a mix of relief and disbelief. This was not an invasion. This was not punishment. This was an opportunity, strange and unexpected, but an opportunity nonetheless. She was here, present in his apartment, and yet she offered him choice. The bond could remain, or it could be undone. There were no threats, only the reality that his words mattered more than he had ever imagined. For the first time, he realized that what had begun as a simple, foolish joke had transformed into a turning point in his life. The accidental proposal had unlocked something unimaginable. He understood now that he was standing at a threshold, a door to another world, a life that could never return to the way it had been before. He took a deep breath and looked at her, seeing not just an alien empress, but a being who had given him the power to choose. The moment was heavy with possibility, and he knew that whatever decision he made, nothing would ever be simple again. He stared at her, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The accidental proposal had brought him here, to a choice he never thought he would face. She had explained everything calmly, yet the decision now rested entirely on him. The room felt quiet, yet full of energy, as if the world was holding its breath. He thought about his life before this. Normal routines, small frustrations, and safe choices. It was comfortable, predictable, and yet it had never felt extraordinary. Now, standing before her, he realized how small that life had been. She represented the unknown, a universe far bigger than his own, and an experience he could never have imagined. Fear tried to creep in. What if he made the wrong choice? What if he ruined everything? But alongside the fear was a spark of excitement, a sense of adventure that he had always wanted, but never dared to seek. She had accepted him for who he was, even if he had spoken without thinking. That in itself felt like a gift. He took a deep breath and looked into her eyes, seeing patience, understanding, and a quiet strength that calmed his nerves. She waited, giving him the time he needed to decide. No pressure, no threats, only the possibility of something incredible. Finally, he spoke. His words were careful, yet firm. He thanked her for her patience, her honesty, and the choice she had offered. He admitted that he had never imagined finding himself here, that his proposal had been a mistake, yet one that had opened a door he could not ignore. She listened, her expression gentle, and nodded. Then he made his choice. Not out of fear, not out of obligation, but because he wanted to see where this path could lead. The bond would remain not by accident, but by his own decision. It was a step into the unknown, a leap that required trust, courage, a willingness to embrace something extraordinary. The moment shifted. The hum in the air softened, the faint glow dimmed, and for a second, the room felt ordinary again. Yet everything had changed. He had glimpsed a world far beyond his own, faced a choice that no one else could face, stepped into a story that was entirely his. From a careless joke to a life-altering decision, he had learned that sometimes the most unexpected moments could lead to the greatest adventures.